So, 28 weeks to go, and we're here cutting like crazy. We thought this week it would be good to catch up on some of your questions. So, Theo, you asked, why did you decide to set your remake in the 1930s and not in modern times? There's two answers to that question. The one main answer is because I wanted to do the sequence with Kong fighting the biplanes on top of the Empire State Building. That is such an iconic movie moment. You know, I couldn't imagine anything being called King Kong and not including that sequence. I think the other reason is it's the last age of exploration, if you like. It's the final time period in which there could be those slight blank spots on the atlas. Greg has asked one of these clever questions which has different parts to it. He says, when directing a scene, what do you look for? How do you know when you've got what you want? And how many takes do you usually like to do? Well, there is no real secret to what you're doing. What happens is that everything comes off the script. And really, in a script, a scene is there for a particular reason.
It's all in the eyes of Kong.
And so the critical thing is to identify the reason that this scene exists.
Have you ever heard of Kong? Anyone doing that? We're going there. And so suddenly you're on the adventure.
You then base the design of the sequence, the blocking of the actors, the camera angles, the way that you shoot it, on the best way to get that piece of information across.
And then come up, and Preston will be here. We'll use Preston.
And generally, I do as many takes as I need to think that I've got what I need.
No, didn't get it then. There, one more.
22 Alpha, take 20.
Mark.
It's sometimes great to have choices too, and working with actors, it's often good to shoot multiple takes if you're not getting exactly the same thing every time, but you're getting a whole variety of different ways in which the scene's played, and then that gives you a lot of choices in the cutting room, which at the moment, you know, those choices I really appreciate.
Sorry, we'll cut that. That was a bit of a dog's breakfast.
The next question is by Rue Boyle, who says, how do you balance the special effects with the character elements in the movie? It's not a science. I mean, you don't sit thinking character, special effects, what percentage of each am I going to have? And largely the special effects are just simply an element in the storytelling. I mean, people have to wear costumes so that they look like the characters. The sets have to be built so that they represent what you want to have in the movie. Obviously, a movie like King Kong, you end up with many more special effects than you would if you were telling a modern-day drama story, simply because, you know, the nature of the story demands things on screen that you can't achieve any other way. The last question is submitted by David, and it's, why are you willing to share so much with the fans? Why are you doing things like these production diaries? Well, I can't tell you that. That's a complete secret.
I'm going to find out who is doing it. I want to find out who's in charge of the Kong is King website and where they're getting their information.
The production diaries have been something that have kind of organically evolved. If you look back at the very first production diary we ever did, the guys poked the video camera in my face and said,
Peter, could we do a quick blurb for the Kong fan site?
Sure, yeah.
And I turned around and said a very brief kind of cursory, you know, hi.
No more days till we start shooting. None.
It was only after that first night of shooting and that very first production diary that I began to realize what the potential was, that it could be kind of fun. It's a way of showing everybody what it takes to make a film in real time, so you can get a sense of the time scale involved, of how long we shot for, how long we're going to be editing for. It's just a kind of, we just thought it'd be fun thing to do the making of while we're making the movie. So hopefully that's answered a few of your questions, and we'll do some more in oncoming weeks, but we're just still cutting. There's not a lot of exciting stuff to see in the cutting room at the moment other than me lying on my couch and slowly assembling the movie.
Adrian packs up. He's got to get out of here. He's going to get him.
Yeah,
he's coming after him. That worked good.
Is that working for you?
Yeah, that works really good.
You're all like it.
Yeah.
So at the moment it's the hard slog of cutting, and it'll continue, and you'll be watching it in future weeks. So we'll see you soon. So here we are, and it's 8 weeks to the release of the film, and this week we have a very special guest with us, two very special guests in actual fact. Have Bob Burns and his very special possession, the original King Kong.
I've known Peter for quite a few years, and then Peter one day said, hey, how would you like to come over and see some of the shooting or whatever, and better yet, how would you like to have a cameo in the film? Here I am today looking, well, better than I normally look, as a matter of fact. I don't usually dress this well.
We've been married next year's 50 years, and our whole marriage has been fandom and enjoying movies and all the people who make them, mostly. I can't tell you how exciting that is and what a wonderful life it's been because of it.
And action!
And cut. Great.
The greatest thing about doing the cameo, the way we did it, it was Peter's very last live-action shot for the film.
And I'm done. Finished shooting. Woohoo!
Yeah.
We're both King Kong fans. In fact, I have the original King Kong puppet that I brought with me to New Zealand to show the Weta people and everybody of how he looked like when he was a young gorilla.
Incredible piece of history just contained in what's a very primitive piece of mechanical engineering. It's well made, but
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
brilliantly simple.
I mean, it's an icon. And to see how he was made, even though he's just a skeleton now, to see how the fingers worked and think that Willis O'Brien did every one of these movements and stuff, and it's an amazing piece.
Everybody working very, very hard to complete the film has had a major distraction this week as Bob has been touring all the facilities with the original Kong.
Oh, wow. That's the boy. We should take him over to the lair.
Oh, my God. Well, that's a sight I never expected to see, ever. Look at that. How cool is that?
I've seen the drawings that Peter had of the actual drawings of which this guy was built, but this is the first time that I've ever actually seen it in the flesh.
And a couple of days ago, I was somewhere at a meeting and I heard over the radio, Kong's at the miniature stage and he's getting animated by Alex Funky. Is that right? Is that?
That's very true.
Oh, my God.
Alex took him and set him up by the wall, the Great Wall. The old Kong and the new Kong set, and he almost looks the right scale. He's very close.
The tingle of history. Absolutely wonderful.
So you've had a little bit of a tour around. Who gave Kong the biggest reception, do you think, out of all our different departments?
Well, I would say probably the animation department.
They would have gone.
They were. I'm telling you, they were like little kids. They were animating him. They were moving him around.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't had a workout like this since 1933. I'm sure.
It's really cool to have, both worlds here. This is how they animated Kong 70 years ago, and this is how they animate Kong today.
I suppose a few of our visual effects shots are going to be a little late this week. I mean, never mind. It's all for a good reason.
That's my fault.
When I knew that we were getting a visit from the Eighth Wonder, I just something that I'd like to do. And it's all based on a photograph.
Peter has the pterodon or pterodactyl that attacks, tries to get Fay Ray, and Kong throttles him.
This is what's left of the original pterodactyl that Kong fights on the lair.
Look at that.
Hasn't got his wings anymore, so it would be kind of cool, wouldn't it, to put him back where he belongs? Should we put him back in Kong's
I
hand?
absolutely think so. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do.
We'll pretend that he's holding Fay Ray in that hand there. And now this shoulder is kind of out, and this elbow is down, and he's got his wrist is turned around. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah. You're doing Willis O'Brien right now.
Yeah. Now the pterodactyl's mouth is open, and it's trying to bite. Look, it's trying to bite Kong's arm.
It is, yeah.
There he goes. Step back, don't breathe. There we go.
Wow. You talk about heart pounding. It's total magic. These two puppets, gone from each other for 72 years, all of a sudden they're back. You're about to see history being, I guess, remade, you might say that. This Kong is going to be reanimated after 70-something years, which has to be some sort of a record for a puppet being animated again. And what's going to be interesting about this, since he doesn't have the fur on him anymore and stuff, you're going to see how the skeletal structure actually moves. So you can imagine what it would be like without the fur and seeing him like this. And it's got to be absolutely incredible. Kong lives again.
When you're dealing with something like King Kong, it's just way more than being a movie. You know, there's so much history. It was a film that made me want to
we all
be a
do.
filmmaker. It's very important to us. It was a really symbolic moment in time to be hosting the armature that started us on our journey to the film that we're making.
Kong is leaving the building.
Hello, and welcome to this post-production diary 2 weeks before the release of King Kong. And I thought that this week, since there's a lot going on, it's actually, ironically, a good chance just to sit down and to answer some more of your questions. I'm in a question-answering mood because it's the week of our press junket in New York before the premiere of the film. So, the first one's from Ryan, and the question is, what have been the biggest challenges you've encountered so far in the making of the film? That's an interesting question. I think the thing that surprised us all was the length of the film. I mean, the film is what it is. I'm very proud of it. Obviously, the longer the film is, the more visual effects shots there are, the more music there is needed, the greater the post-production, the more complicated the film. Coming out of Lord of the Rings, I, for some reason, didn't quite expect it to be quite as complex as it did turn out to be. So that has certainly been one of the practical challenges. The artistic challenge, if you like, has been the creation of King Kong himself, bringing a completely digital gorilla to life in a way that you just relate and buy into his character. And obviously all of you are going to be able to judge for yourselves whether or not we've succeeded, but it has been a real tough job to do. Deborah has sent in a question. What were the biggest challenges in adapting a 1933 film for a contemporary audience? In a sense, we have confronted it the most direct way by actually setting our movie in 1933. You know, we haven't attempted to update the film, but of course, you know, we are filmmakers in 2005, so obviously the world is a very different place, and the technology is very different to 1933, but there's a lot about the original King Kong which I love because it was made in 1933, and it was made as a contemporary film at the time, but we've made our film as a period movie, but I really wanted to embrace that 1933 time period. And Chris has sent in a question. How has this movie differed from the other movies you've done? The interesting thing about this film is that I started to do a remake of King Kong when I was 12 on Super 8. Didn't get much of it done back then, but I've always had this ambition, this desire to want to make this film. And so from that point of view, I felt more than any other film I've ever made, I felt that this was something I'd been waiting for years and years and years to do. So that has been a very significant part of the process for me. The next question is from Pastor Mike. What is the secret to making films in which most people know the basic plot and the ending even before seeing them? Now, that is a very interesting question. You just got to make it a cool movie. I think to some degree it's a classic fable, and I think the fact that people know the ending in a way is almost a strength of the film, because there's a certain power to it as you're watching it, knowing where it's actually heading. And also, I would hope that there's going to be a significant amount of kids, young people coming to the film that won't actually know the ending. And this will be their first introduction to this amazing story. And the last question is from Kevin. How do you feel now that the movie that you've always wanted to make is about to be released? I feel exhausted, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people's response to the film is. There's this weird, surreal period of 2 or 3 weeks where the film goes away. It's like a child leaving home, or, you know, some period of transition. And it's strange because people see it for the first time, and you get feedback. You get people telling you what they think about the movie. And it's a very nerve-wracking time, but it's also very satisfying. And it also defines a period in your life, because there's been a big chunk of working on the film that now is finished, and we're moving on to something else. In a funny way, it's the point of making a film, to get to the stage that you have it for people to enjoy. Really looking forward to seeing you all next week, and we're going to give you a very exclusive inside look at what happens to the filmmakers as they go through the process of the final press and premiere. Look forward to seeing you.